Qi Lu is a rich young master, but unfortunately he has a strange disease. He is allergic to touching people of the opposite sex. This strange disease makes Qi Lu's mother very worried about him, so she always calls a nurse to take care of her son. Today's nurse is a poor girl named Chu Xia. When she arrives at the Han family's house, Chu Xia is overwhelmed by the wealth of this family. At first, Chu Xia thought her patient had cerebral palsy, so she opened her tools to prepare to insert a catheter for the patient. Unexpectedly, Qi Lu suddenly stood up with a surprised face. Chu Xia comforted the patient, and she affirmed that she had been professionally trained. Outside, Qi Lu's mother hoped that he would recover soon. She wished to touch him even just once. That simple thing was enough to satisfy her for the rest of her life. At this moment, the real doctor who came to treat Qi Lu appeared. Chu Xia still did not know this, and she tried her best to chase after Qi Lu. During the fight, the two accidentally fell onto the sofa. This incident caused them to accidentally kiss. Mrs. Han worriedly helped her son up, forgetting that she could not touch him. At the same time, after Chu Xia received a call from the manager, she realized that she had gone to the wrong house. Dr. An talked privately with Mrs. Han. The doctor thought that Chu Xia could cure Qi Lu. It turned out that after an incident when he was young, Qi Lu was allergic to touching people of the opposite sex. However, when Qi Lu touched Chu Xia's lips, nothing happened. Dr. An suggested hiring Chu Xia as an intermediary to treat Qi Lu. After hearing about Chu Xia's situation, Mrs. Han immediately agreed to pay her mother's hospital fees. In return, Chu Xia had to treat Qi Lu. In addition, Mrs. Han would pay Chu Xia daily wages and let Chu Xia go to school with Qi Lu. The contract was like a savior for Chu Xia's life, but Qi Lu immediately objected. Mrs. Han had to think of a way to force her son to agree. Then she asked the two of them to wear smart watches. It could record the time and distance between them. The two of them could not be more than 1 meter apart. To make things easier, Chu Xia went to apologize to Qi Lu for misunderstanding that he had cerebral palsy. Qi Lu coldly took the elevator down, causing Chu Xia to frantically run after him to maintain distance. Qi Lu said that he would only forgive Chu Xia if she asked for leave. However, he still gave her a chance to try out today. The housekeeper took Chu Xia to the room and sent a file about Qi Lu's hobbies. He also announced that Chu Xia would enroll with Qi Lu this afternoon. At the business academy, Qi Lu made Chu Xia take 3 steps back. He also strictly forbade her from getting close to him. When Chu Xia heard the alarm clock, she quickly reached out and ran after Qi Lu. In the classroom, everyone was unfamiliar with Chu Xia. Since there was only one empty seat, Chu Xia had to sit next to Qi Lu. A boy named Shen Chuan pulled Chu Xia out. He remembered that she used to work part-time at his family's bakery. Hearing Shen Chuan's question about Chu Xia's mother's condition, she said that her mother still had to regularly do dialysis to wait for a suitable kidney. Chu Xia currently worked at the Han family and might be able to pay for her mother's hospital bills. Shen Chuan reminded Chu Xia to be careful because Qi Lu was very perverted. Moreover, Qi Lu didn't let anyone touch him. Chu Xia insisted that it was just a rumor. She thought that even though he was always upset, he was a good person. Chu Xia sneaked into Qi Lu's room in the middle of the night and quietly sat next to him to get enough 8 hours together. But Chu Xia didn't know that Qi Lu had already woken up. Early in the morning, she excitedly announced that she had passed her probationary period. Qi Lu thought that if he was in a good mood, he could give Chu Xia his watch to complete the task. Hearing Chu Xia say that it was from home to school, Qi Lu gave her a chance to please him in exchange for the watch. When Chu Xia returned to class, she was afraid that sitting next to Qi Lu would upset him, so she ran out. But in order to understand Qi Lu better, Chu Xia decided to study the information about his hobbies. At this time, a classmate named Shi Wei came to warn Chu Xia not to get close to Qi Lu. She insisted that he only belonged to her. When Chu Xia returned to class, she asked Qi Lu if Shi Wei was his girlfriend. Qi Lu started to feel unhappy. He held his watch and looked at Chu Xia. Qi Lu gave Chu Xia the chance to use tiramisu cake in exchange for a mission. Then Qi Lu waited for Shi Wei in the hallway and warned her not to cause trouble for Chu Xia. Qi Lu had previously ignored his classmates, but from now on, he did not want others to misunderstand that Shi Wei was his girlfriend. In the schoolyard, Qi Lu accidentally heard Chu Xia tell Shen Chuan that she only tolerated him to cure her mother's illness. Later, when Qi Lu held the cake that Chu Xia bought in her hand, but at this moment, he was no longer in the mood to eat it. Qi Lu heard Chu Xia boast that she used to work at this bakery and that the boss was the best person in the world, so he acted angry and returned the cake to her. When Chu Xia got home, she blamed Qi Lu for being a devil and wasting food. She drew in her diary and cursed him to have nightmares. Unexpectedly, the next morning, Qi Lu looked unhappy because he really had a nightmare last night. Hearing this, Chu Xia thought her curse had come true. At school, Chu Xia confided in Shen Chuan that she had accidentally cursed Qi Lu, and she felt very guilty. He really had a nightmare. At this moment, Qi Lu caught Chuxia talking badly about him. Qi Lu asked for the watch back. If not, he would fire her. Chuxia quickly ran after Qi Lu and returned the watch to him. He took the watch back and reminded her not to stay more than 1 meter away from him. The exam was coming up, so Qi Lu lent Chuxia a lot of books. He warned her that if she ranked first from the bottom, she would not be able to sit next to him anymore. But no matter how many times she tried to read it, she still did not understand. She opened her diary again and wrote a wish for Qi Lu to get a 0. The next morning, she fell asleep on the pile of books. Chuxia was so sleepy that she forgot the 1 meter distance and fell on Qi Lu's back. Shi Wei saw this scene and became jealous. Shi Wei met Chuxia privately and confirmed that Qi Lu must have been bewitched by Chuxia, so he let her get close to him. Hearing Chuxia cursed Qi Lu to be sick, Shi Wei immediately locked her in the piano room. At this moment, a friend came and dragged Shi Wei into the exam room. At this time, Qi Lu did not see Chuxia taking the exam, so he hurriedly went to look for her. A moment later, he found her passed out in the piano room. He worriedly carried her to the infirmary. Unexpectedly, Chuxia was just sleeping because she had studied all night. When she woke up, she immediately wanted to go to the exam, but he informed her that it was already late. Not long after, Shi Wei came to apologize to Chuxia for not being able to control her anger, but Shi Wei still believed that Chuxia should not have cursed Qi Lu for being sick. Qi Lu argued that whether he was sick or not had nothing to do with Shi Wei. She approached him and pulled his hand, wanting to explain. He quickly pulled his hand away, so she angrily left. Chuxia then gently cleaned Qi Lu's wound. She revealed that she always carried medicine with her in case he touched someone else. When she returned home, Chuxia continued reading the pile of books that Qi Lu had paired. Mrs. Han saw that Chuxia was studying hard, so she brought nourishing soup for Chuxia. Chuxia was very touched because since her mother got sick, no one had cooked soup for her. Mrs. Han sympathized with Chuxia's loneliness because she herself had not been able to touch her son for 10 years. Touched by Mrs. Han's feelings, Chuxia was determined to cure Qi Lu. Chuxia remembered what Dr. An had said, so she had direct contact with patient. Chuxia immediately jumped up and hit Qi Lu on the head, but it was just her imagination. The two of them walked past the exam scoreboard. Chuxia heard her classmates gossiping that Qi Lu had skipped the exam because of her, which was why he lost first place to Shi Wei. Chuxia stammered an apology to Qi Lu, but he didn't blame her. In the office, the homeroom teacher blamed the 3 students who skipped the exam. Shen Chuan was happy because he got the same score as Qi Lu for the first time. Chuxia took all the responsibility for her. She only asked the homeroom teacher not to punish the other 2 students. Shi Wei went to explain to the teacher that Qi Lu and Shen Chuan saved Chuxia, which was why they missed the exam. The homeroom teacher agreed to let the 3 students take the makeup exam the following week. Back in class, Chuxia read the book over and over again, but she still didn't understand. Chuxia felt it was unfair that Qi Lu got a full score just by sleeping. He asked her to give him the book so he could circle the key knowledge in the exam, because there was still a lot of knowledge she didn't understand. Chuxia continued to bother Qi Lu. Unexpectedly, he had designed a mock exam to help her practice. At this time, Shi Wei went to the bakery to find Shen Chuan and gave him study materials on the condition that he had to do better than Chuxia. If he failed, she wouldn't talk to him anymore. At the library, Qi Lu heard Chuxia complaining that she didn't understand the lesson, so he approached her to explain it to her. Remembering what Dr. An had told her to have direct contact with, Chuxia wanted to touch Qi Lu's hand. Qi Lu reminded Chuxia to focus on the exam, and if she didn't understand anything, she could ask him. As soon as Chuxia saw Shen Chuan, she hurriedly ran out to greet him, making Qi Lu unhappy. She shared the mock exam with her best friend. Later, Chuxia also asked Shen Chuan for advice on how to touch a boy. He teased her that she had a secret crush on Qi Lu. Shen Chuan suggested that Chuxia should take advantage of the time when Qi Lu was fast asleep and secretly touch him. When Chuxia went out, she didn't see Qi Lu, so she hurriedly ran to the rooftop to look for him. However, his cold demeanor made her even more confused about what he was thinking. At noon, when Chuxia had lunch with Shen Chuan, she complained that she couldn't get close to Qi Lu. Shen Chuan came up with an idea and asked Chuxia to hide some scraps of paper in her hand and pretend to pick up the paper stuck to Qi Lu's hair. To practice, Shen Chuan acted as Chuxia to pick up the paper stuck to her hair. Unexpectedly, Qi Lu thought they were being intimate, so he got angry and left. During the meal, Chairman Han returned, making the family atmosphere even more tense. Chuxia secretly thought that Qi Lu was as scary as his father. Seeing Qi Lu reading a book outside, Chuxia secretly carried out Shen Chuan's plan. But before she could do anything, he discovered her. Chuxia wondered if Qi Lu was angry with her because he heard Shen Chuan say that she had a secret crush on him. Chuxia explained that she just wanted to quickly cure Qi Lu, but she couldn't tell him his true situation. If he noticed, she would explain to Shen Chuan. In a hurry, Chu Xia grabbed Qilu's hand. She found that being in direct contact with him wasn't as difficult as she thought. On the day of the test, Chu Xia found that the test was exactly the same as Qilu's simulation test. As soon as Qilu finished the test and went out, he caught Chu Xia about to put the paper on his head. Lu knew that this was Shen Chuan's way of teaching Chu Xia. At this time, Shen Chuan apologized to Shi Wei because he couldn't betray Chu Xia. Shi Wei knew that Qi Lu prepared the simulation test for Chu Xia, so she became even more jealous. In another development, to congratulate Chu Xia on passing the test, Mrs. Han prepared a surprise gift for her. Mrs. Han gave Chu Xia a tablet and specially used a photo of her and Qi Lu as the wallpaper. At school, Chu Xia wanted to complete the mission of touching Qi Lu for 1 minute. He knew her intentions, so he immediately made her stay away from him. In the middle of class, Qi Lu ran out to answer the phone. Chu Xia immediately followed Qi Lu. She overheard him hiding something from his parents to investigate something. Chu Xia asked why Qi Lu always kept things to himself. He was clearly unhappy, but tried to act normal. She thought of a way to change his mood. She wanted to compete with him to see who would be bitten by the puppy. Since he ignored her, she had to play alone. When he pressed the puppy's teeth, he accidentally touched her hand. He didn't rush to pull his hand back to help her complete the task for a minute. In class, Shen Chuan accidentally dropped Chu Xia's tablet. The classmates discovered a photo of Chu Xia and Qi Lu together and immediately gathered to discuss. Not long after, the rumor that Chu Xia was living with Qi Lu immediately spread throughout the school. Shen Chuan apologized for causing trouble for his best friend. Chu Xia didn't blame Shen Chuan. Chu Xia was more worried about Qi Lu's reaction. At this moment, Mrs. Han reported that she had found a suitable kidney for Chu Xia's mother. At the same time, Chu Xia also reported that she had completed the task of spending 1 minute with Qi Lu. As soon as Qi Lu entered the classroom, he heard his friends gossiping about his relationship with Chu Xia. Qi Lu insisted that he could not date Chu Xia. Shi Wei immediately assumed that Chu Xia had deliberately combined the photo with Qi Lu. Chu Xia saw that Qi Lu did not bother to explain, so she quickly left. When she returned home, she quickly apologized to him for not having time to change the wallpaper. Qi Lu reminded Chu Xia that she was only working for his family, so she was not allowed to cause trouble for him. At school, Shen Chuan was worried about Chu Xia, but she only cared about Qi Lu's feelings. Shen Chuan sympathized with her because every time something happened, he thought of Shi Wei first. He admitted that he had liked her for a long time. Seeing Chu Xia alone and depressed, Shi Wei proudly said that she would take this opportunity to flirt with Qi Lu. Chu Xia hurriedly ran after her to stop her, but unfortunately, Shi Wei's tea burned her hand. Qi Lu anxiously pulled Chu Xia back to class. He took the medicine bottle from her desk drawer and gently applied it to her wound. Unexpectedly, her classmates were still in class and had witnessed their intimate scene. As soon as Qi Lu calmed down, he agreed to cooperate with her to treat her illness. As soon as he finished his 1-minute contact, he suddenly let go of her hand, accidentally pulling her into his arms. Mrs. Han saw this scene and immediately felt very satisfied. Mrs. Han suggested to Chu Xia that she would increase their contact time to 10 minutes. Not long after, at school, Chu Xia passed by a notice recruiting members of the drama group. Chu Xia thought this was a good opportunity to increase his contact time with Qi Lu. Chu Xia wanted to compete for the female lead role, but Qi Lu was not interested in being the male lead. However, Qi Lu still inquired about Chu Xia's role. Shen Chuan said that he and Shi Wei were chosen to play the main roles. Chu Xia only prepared the props. At this time, Chu Xia lamented that she could not be the female lead. Qi Lu came in and criticized Chu Xia for drawing badly. He decided to help. While drawing, he accidentally touched her hand. At the same time, in the practice room, Shen Chuan saw Shi Wei practicing dancing, and he was a little moved. Shen Chuan said that he asked Qi Lu to give Chu Xia the props so that he could quickly practice with Shi Wei. Hearing this, Shi Wei angrily ran to find Qi Lu. In the prop room, Chu Xia finished the drawing. She stood up and accidentally slipped. Chu Xia quickly grabbed Qi Lu's collar, making him press against her. As a result, the drawing was ruined, but Qi Lu looked very happy. He tricked her into touching her nose so that the watercolor would get on her face. Knowing that she had fallen into his trap, she took revenge on him. He chased after her and forced her to apologize. At this moment, Shi Wei entered and saw this scene. Shi Wei lost control and rushed towards Chu Xia. Qi Lu quickly hugged Chu Xia and dodged, causing Shi Wei to fall and twist her ankle. Since Shi Wei could not walk for a few days, the drama group had to choose a new female lead. Shen Chuan remembered that Chu Xia had auditioned for Cinderella, so he wanted to nominate her to replace Shi Wei. Shen Chuan would teach Chu Xia the female lead's dance. When Qi Lu saw them being intimate, he couldn't read the book, so Qi Lu left first and dragged Chu Xia along. Seeing her happy about being the female lead, he became even angrier. her. In the study room, he waited for a long time, but she didn't come to treat him. When he went to look for her, he saw her practicing dancing by the pool. He secretly watched her clumsily practicing dancing. When she saw him reminding her to complete the task, she hurriedly ran to him. But now he wanted to teach her to dance in 10 minutes. Even though she kept stepping on his feet, he was still patient with her. Found out that she couldn't tell left from right, so he told her to step on his feet so he could teach her each dance step. Mrs. Han was happy for her son. She quickly took pictures of the beautiful memories. Early the next morning, Chu Xia thanked Qi Lu for patiently teaching her to dance. She hoped that he would come to see her performance. Qi Lu showed no interest, which disappointed Chu Xia. But unexpectedly, he arrived at the performance very early. Backstage, Shen Chuan couldn't find the prince's costume. It was now time for the class performance, so Chu Xia had to go on stage first. Cinderella waited for a long time but still couldn't see the prince. Hearing her classmates tease her that she wasn't worthy of the prince, Qi Lu decided to go on stage. In the midst of the bright lights, he walked up to Cinderella like a prince. They held hands and danced together rhythmically. Finally, Chu Xia waited for her prince. When Shi Wei heard this, she immediately went to ask Qi Lu. He reminded her not to touch him casually. She couldn't accept that a Cinderella like Chu Xia could touch Qi Lu, while she couldn't. Shen Chuan then came to comfort her and took Shi Wei back to the infirmary. He patiently listened to her scolding and gently bandaged her wound. Shen Chuan believed that feelings only differentiate between liking and disliking, not who is better. Chu Xia might not be as good as Shi Wei, but she is special in Qi Lu's eyes. At the bakery, Shi Wei asked Shen Chuan what to do if she likes someone who doesn't have feelings for her. He thought that he would silently watch and remember every facial expression of that person. Shen Chuan also said that he would be afraid that person would be hurt, so he made the rainbow cake that person's favorite. After Shi Wei heard this, she immediately became embarrassed and put down her spoon. Shen Chuan quickly said that he didn't ask her to respond because feelings are inherently unfair. Shi Wei was touched by Shen Chuan's sincerity, but at the moment she couldn't give an answer. During breakfast, Mrs. Han seemed to be interested in her two children's performance. Qi Lu spoke up for Chu Xia because he didn't want to ruin the class play. Seeing that Qi Lu was unhappy, Chu Xia quickly corrected that she and he were just doing well in the group activity. Moreover, she wanted to cure him, and she had no other intentions. When Qi Lu entered the room, Qi Lu accidentally read Chu Xia's diary. He laughed at the little girl's naive curses. In addition, Sep also wrote a wish that she wanted to go camping one day. At this time, Chu Xia told herself to get rid of her thoughts that crossed the line, because Qi Lu was originally engaged to Miss Shang. At this time, Shen Chuan called to ask her to come help at the bakery. Chu Xia wondered why Shen Chuan usually arranged the cakes the night before, but today they weren't finished yet. Seeing Shen Chuan blushing, Chu Xia guessed that he was hiding something from her. Outside, Qi Lu used binoculars and saw Chu Xia playing with Shen Chuan. He felt very jealous. Being questioned by Chu Xia, Shen Chuan had no choice but to confess that Shi Wei agreed to give him a chance. At this moment, Qi Lu walked in. Qi Lu held Chu Xia's diary in his hand. He wanted her to make a cake in exchange for the diary. In the car, the housekeeper reported the work to the madam. Mrs. Han knew that her son had fallen for Chu Xia. That's why he teased the girl he liked. After Chu Xia finished making the cake, she couldn't see Qi Lu. He suddenly pulled her from behind, causing her to accidentally bump into his chest. They were so close that she could hear the young master's heartbeat. He apologized for reading her diary. To make up for it, he wanted to take her camping. He used the excuse that the housekeeper had a fever to go out with her alone. Seeing her clumsiness, he took the initiative to fasten her seatbelt. On the way, Chu Xia suddenly felt a stomachache. She guessed that she had eaten too much cake in the morning. Qi Lu was worried, so he took Chu Xia to the hotel to rest. When he got back to the room, he informed her that the hotel only had this room left. When Chu Xia heard this, she immediately asked for more blankets and pillows to sleep on the sofa. Qi Lu suddenly put medicine on Chu Xia's forehead, making her heart beat faster. In the middle of the night, Chu Xia couldn't sleep because the sofa was a bit hard. Qi Lu didn't want to be disturbed, so he allowed Chu Xia to sleep on the bed. Chu Xia rolled up the blanket carefully and promised that she wouldn't touch Qi Lu. Unexpectedly, in the middle of the night, she was sleepwalking and walked around the room on her own. Then, Chu Xia climbed into bed and hugged Qi Lu tightly to continue sleeping. Her warmth made him dream about the little girl who had saved him. Early the next morning, Qi Lu still saw Chu Xia hugging him tightly. When she woke up, she frantically apologized and ran to the bathroom. At this time, Mrs. Han heard that her son had been secretly looking for a little girl. The housekeeper remembered that he had once said that someone had saved him, but when they found Qi Lu, he was alone alone. The doctor also thought that the girl was just a hallucination that Qilu had created in a desperate situation. Finally, the two of them reached the beach. Chuxia set up camp with Qilu. She accidentally touched his hand. Chuxia immediately ran back to her camp in embarrassment. When she opened her luggage, she discovered that she had forgotten a mattress at home. She confessed to him and came up with the idea of using a red line as a boundary. She promised that she would never touch him. Not long after, the two of them went for a walk on the beach. Qilu accidentally caught a small crab. Hearing Chuxia compare the small crab to her, Qilu chased after her and taught Chuxia a lesson. Qilu watched Chuxia walk on the rough rocks. Then he gently held her hand to become her support. Chuxia shouted out to the sea, hoping that Qilu would recover soon. Seeing that Chuxia wanted to take a photo, Qilu took the initiative to help. After that, Qilu only wanted to take a photo of his back. However, he was willing to show his face in the photo with Chuxia. Looking into the distance, Chuxia accidentally saw Shiwei walking down to the sea. Chuxia thought Shiwei was thinking of something crazy, so she quickly pulled Shiwei back. During the struggle, Chuxia accidentally pushed Shiwei into the water. Unexpectedly, Shiwei was just walking on the beach to relax. Because Shiwei's clothes were all wet, Chuxia quickly asked Shen Chuan for help. Shen Chuan arrived not long after. He also brought a lot of things. In order to create an opportunity for Shen Chuan, Chuxia pulled Qilu to another place. At night, Shen Chuan showed off his grilling skills. When Chuxia invited Shiwei to eat fruit, he quickly stopped her. Because Shen Chuan knew Shiwei only liked to drink tea, Qilu began to wonder about Chuxia's hobbies. Suddenly, Shiwei held her stomach and ran away. Shen Chuan immediately asked Chuxia to give her sanitary napkins. Shen Chuan had seen the note about the menstrual cycle in Shiwei's pencil case, so he had prepared before coming. Qilu chatted privately with Shen Chuan. He hesitantly asked what he should do for the person he liked. Qilu also nodded and admitted that he had feelings for Chuxia. Shen Chuan believed that feelings do not have shoulds and should nots. When Qilu really likes someone, he cannot help but care for them and treat them well. At this time, Chuxia admired Shiwei because she had someone who cared for her so much. Shiwei was very touched by Shen Chuan's kindness, but she could not control her feelings. Shiwei could not immediately forget Qilu. However, Shiwei began to find Shen Chuan quite cute. When they returned to the camp, Qilu asked Chuxia about her menstrual cycle. She quickly covered his mouth, but she accidentally pressed him down. The next day, Shen Chuan held a lottery to choose a place to have fun. Qilu chose Chuxia's wish, which was to go to an amusement park. When they arrived at the amusement park, Chuxia pulled Qilu to play on the Ferris wheel. Seeing her excitedly grabbing the stuffed animal, he also tried to do as she wanted. The two couples happily drove and raced boats. During the break, Shiwei accidentally touched Qilu's hand, but he was not allergic. In another development, the Xiang family's daughter, Man Ting, had just returned from abroad. As soon as she returned, she asked her father to take her to visit her fiancé. Mrs. Han did not like Man Ting, so she told him that her son was camping with his girlfriend. Mr. Han quickly explained that Chuxia was just a nurse taking care of Qilu. At this time, Chuxia congratulated Qilu on his recovery. He told her that he was going far away to find someone very important. Chuxia guessed that Qilu was going to find his fiancé abroad. Qilu's recovery was also the time for Chuxia to leave. When returning to the bakery, Shiwei saw that Shen Chuan was unhappy. Shen Chuan confided that he was afraid that Shiwei would continue to pursue Qilu if Qilu recovered. Shiwei suddenly kissed Shen Chuan on the cheek and affirmed that she only liked him now. Back home, Chuxia gave Mrs. Han a big gift. Chuxia held Mrs. Han's hand and touched Qilu's face. Mrs. Han was overjoyed because after 14 years, she finally dared to hold her son in her arms. Qilu saw Chuxia passing by and deliberately asked the housekeeper about his birthday plans. He insisted that he didn't need any special gifts, that Chuxia was the savior of the Han family, so he could invite her. While Chuxia was thinking about Qilu's birthday gift, on the other side, Qilu was busy figuring out how to confess his feelings to Chuxia. Qilu decided to ask Shen Chuan, but as soon as Qilu went out, he met Man Ting, but he didn't recognize her. Qilu went to see Shen Chuan and revealed that he was going to confess to Chuxia. So at the upcoming birthday party, Qilu wanted to ask Shen Chuan for help. At the bakery, Chuxia personally made a gift for Qilu. Shiwei heard that Qilu liked the color red, so he told Chuxia to wear a red dress at the birthday party. When she got home, Chuxia was wondering where to find a red dress when Mrs. Mrs. Han brought one as a gift for her. This was no coincidence. Mrs. Han was just following her son's plan. At the birthday party, Chuxia wore a red dress to help the housekeeper pack things. Qi Lu secretly watched Chuxia from afar. When the party was about to start, he was a little nervous. Shen Chuan had prepared roses for him. Shen Chuan saw that Qi Lu was nervous, so he comforted him that everything was according to plan. The party began. Qi Lu went on stage to give a speech. Qi Lu thanked everyone for coming to his 20th birthday party. He wanted to take this opportunity to announce something important. However, Shi Wei could not find Chuxia off stage at this time. At this time, Chairman Han suddenly grabbed Qi Lu's microphone. He also introduced Man Ting as Qi Lu's fiancé. It turned out that before the party started, Mr. Han had spoken to Chuxia privately. He said that he would make his son's engagement public at party. Chuxia knew what he meant, so she insisted that she stay to treat Qi Lu. Now that he was cured, she didn't want Man Ting to misunderstand. Mr. Han thought that Qi Lu hadn't interacted with strangers since he was young, so he treated Chuxia as something new. At this time, Man Ting thought that her fiancé had prepared flowers for her, so she didn't hesitate to accept them. But Qi Lu was very angry, so he immediately left. He let her lose face in front of the guests. Mr. Han promised that he would give the Shan family a clear explanation soon. Meanwhile, Chuxia left her dress and watch on the bed and quietly left a place that didn't belong to her. Qi Lu hurriedly went to find Chuxia, but he still couldn't hold her back. Hearing that Qi Lu had sent someone to look for Chuxia, Mr. Han looked disappointed in him. Qi Lu's father blamed him for being selfish and not considering his father's feelings. Qi Lu thought that anyone could say that except his father, because Qi Lu's father was afraid of affecting the company's stock. He blocked the news of Qi Lu's kidnapping, causing Qi Lu to be locked in an abandoned house for several days. Now, he continues to force Qi Lu to marry into the Xiang family for his career. Mrs. Han stopped the two from arguing. Mrs. Han said that Chuxia's mother had just had surgery, so they would definitely go back for a checkup. Qi Lu hurried to wait at the hospital. Qi Lu hoped he would see Chuxia. On the way to the hospital, he passed by her without knowing. When Qi Lu arrived at school, Shen Chuan informed him that President Han had asked for Chuxia's leave of absence. Qi Lu looked at Chuxia's toy and thought about the happy memories with her. Just then, Shen Chuan called Qi Lu to tell him that he had found Chuxia's address in his old job application at the bakery. Even though it was already midnight, Qi Lu still ran to Chuxia's house. She was surprised when he found her address. Coincidentally, Qi Lu also met Chuxia's mother, so he pretended to have a car breakdown and asked to stay at their house for the night. Chuxia's mother knew that Qi Lu was the son of his benefactor, so she asked Chuxia to clean his room. The next day, Qi Lu instructed Chuxia's mother on how to clean up her phone's memory. She guessed that he was handsome and smart, so there must be many girls chasing him. He confessed that he didn't know how to please a girl. Chuxia's mother invited Qi Lu to stay for lunch. She also urged her daughter to go to the market to buy ingredients so she could cook some delicious dishes to treat her benefactor. Qi Lu wanted to take Chuxia to the market. On the way, they passed by an abandoned factory. Qi Lu suddenly stopped. He trembled as he walked inside. The nightmare from the past suddenly appeared, the image of a woman imprisoning him in this factory to take revenge on his family for losing her job. Qi Lu was so panicked that he couldn't breathe. While he was in crisis and most lonely, a little girl in a red dress stepped out of the bright sunlight and saved him. Qi Lu realized that the person he had been looking for all this time was Chuxia. Hearing Qi Lu speak, Chuxia remembered that she had saved a boy who had been kidnapped in this factory. When they went outside, Qi Lu blamed Chuxia for only saving him halfway and then leaving him in the middle of the road. She explained that she saw him thirsty, so she ran to ask for water for him. But when she turned back, she couldn't find him. Qi Lu said that as soon as Chuxia left, his father found him. He said that a little girl had saved him, but no one believed him. The doctor even thought that it was just his hallucination. However, Qi Lu still did not give up, so he sent people to look for the little girl in the red dress for many years. When he returned home, Chuxia bragged to her mother that Qi Lu was the boy she had saved all those years ago. Chuxia's mother revealed that the person who kidnapped Qi Lu was her former colleague. That year, Qi Lu's family suddenly closed the factory but did not pay severance pay to the workers. She had just lost her job and her husband had left her, so she was in a state of panic. Qi Lu remembered that his family closed the factory to optimize the assets, but his father had spent a large amount of money on workers' allowances, so Qi Lu was determined to investigate this matter. At Qi Lu's house, Man Ting came to find Qi Lu. Because Qi Lu was not at home, Mrs. Han brought out a photo album to entertain the guests. Mrs. Han showed Man Ting 2 pages of Qi Lu's photos. The following pages were all photos of Qi Lu and Chuxia. Mrs. Han said that Qi Lu was cold to the world, but he was only close to Chuxia. Man Ting waited for Qi Lu to return. She reminded him that the two families families had an engagement 10 years ago. Qi Liu immediately announced that the engagement was broken off. He wanted to decide for himself who to spend his life with. Mrs. Han immediately supported Qi Liu so that he could freely love. Man Ting was angry and swore that she would make Qi Liu's family regret it. When Chairman Han heard the news, he immediately scolded Qi Liu for being stubborn. He thought that the two families had developed together for 10 years, so Qi Liu marrying Man Ting was the best choice. Qi Liu asked his father if he had never suspected the Shang family. Qi Liu suspected that they had embezzled the severance pay of the textile factory workers in the past. Mr. Han gave Qi Liu a chance to find evidence. If Qi Liu was right, he would cancel the engagement with the Shang family. Not long after, Qi Liu went to Chu Xia's house to look for information. Because Chu Xia's mother had not moved, she still kept the old salary slip and the factory's contact book. Qi Liu wanted to find the accountant named Bai Sheng to point out who had embezzled the allowance that year. When they arrived at the address on the contact book, Bai Sheng had already moved away 8 years ago. Qi Liu and Chu Xia had no choice but to split up to look for him. Then they agreed to meet again in front of the house at 9 p.m. Finally, Qi Liu found Bai Sheng. Qi Liu questioned who had pocketed the Han family's severance pay. Qi Liu believed that Bai Sheng still kept the books because he was afraid that the Shang family would get rid of him. Qi Liu promised that as long as Bai Sheng handed over the evidence, he would definitely be cleared of the crime. Qi Liu went back to see Chu Xia and told him that he had found Bai Sheng. Just as Qi Liu had guessed, the Shang family had embezzled the workers' severance pay. Chu Xia urged Qi Liu to quickly return to give his father the evidence. On the way home, Chu Xia unexpectedly met Man Ting. Man Ting invited Chu Xia to go with her. Qi Liu was worried, so she returned in time. Man Ting blamed Chu Xia for ruining her beautiful life. Man Ting wondered what was wrong with her as compared to Chu Xia. Qi Liu advised Man Ting not to be stubborn. Qi Liu affirmed that no matter how many people appeared around him, he would choose Chu Xia. At the Han family, Qi Liu showed his father Bai Sheng's book. It specifically recorded each severance pay of the workers that went into Xian's pocket. More importantly, there was a female worker who lost her job and was forced to go crazy. She thought that Han's family was mistreating her, so she kidnapped Qi Liu. She was then sent to a mental hospital, so there was no news. Chairman Han blocked the news of her disappearance, so Qi Liu was locked in the factory for a long time. It was not until Chu Xia came to save Qi Liu that he was able to escape. At this moment, Mr. Xian came to pick up his daughter. Mr. Han was very disappointed at being betrayed by his best friend. Mr. Han not only broke off the engagement, but also sued Xian's family. Chu Xia did not dare to accept Mr. Han's apology. She thought that she was not one of the fired workers, so she could not accept his apology. Mr. Han promised that he would definitely make it up to each family that year. Mrs. Han thanked Chu Xia for saving Qi Liu twice. Chu Xia also did not forget the Han family's kindness in paying her mother's hospital bills. Seeing that Chu Xia was about to leave, Qi Liu quickly called her back. He pretended to fall and get sick, so he forced her to stay for treatment. By the pool, Qi Liu blamed Chu Xia for daring to leave on his 20th birthday. Because the cake was delicious, he forgave her for the time being. Qi Liu made Chu Xia put her watch back on and not be more than 1 meter away from him. From then on, the Han family adopted Chu Xia as their own daughter. Home economics classes, singing and dancing classes appeared one after another during Chu Xia's summer vacation. Xia's mother was also staying at the best nursing home. At this time, Qi Liu and his father were eating. Mr. Han lamented that since Chu Xia came along, his wife had stopped caring for him. Qi Liu also lamented that his girlfriend no longer had time for him. Qi Liu and his father thought of a way to separate the two of them. Qi Liu came to report that his father was sick, so Mrs. Han hurried to visit her husband. He took this opportunity to end his girlfriend's flower arrangement class. After the teacher left, Qi Liu confessed that his father missed his mother, so he lied. Then Chu decided to go into the kitchen to show off her cooking skills. Qi Liu tasted the food Chu Xia cooked and he kept praising it. She confided that she had to work harder so as not to embarrass the Han family. Qi Liu thought that Chu Xia was good enough without learning these things. At this moment, Man Ting came to say goodbye to the Han family. Before going abroad, Man Ting wanted to apologize to Chu Xia and wished them both happiness. Back at the shore, Chu Xia heard that Shi Wei was about to get engaged to Shen Chuan, so she admired the two of them very much. Chu Xia confided that Qi Liu had not confessed to her yet. Shi Wei advised Chu Xia to take the initiative. Chu Xia met Qi Liu and showed him Shi Wei's wedding dress. Shen Chuan even personally designed the bride's shoes. Shi Wei reminded them that the ceremony was very important for the two of them to be together. Seeing that Qi Liu still did not understand, Chu Xia left in disappointment. Qi Liu's naivety left Shen Chuan speechless. When he returned home, Qi Liu gave Chu Xia a surprise. Unexpectedly, he proposed to her right there. The ring was a bit big, but she still liked it very much. Chu Xia replied that she had had been waiting for this day for a long time. The devilish young master had finally found the light of his life. Chuxia and Han Qilu would never be separated. The drama ended here. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye, and see you again.